Okay, so I have a quick question for you. I'm going to assume that you're looking for a set of coilovers, but you're thinking in your head, well, I want to get these expensive ones, but there's these really cheap ones available. Is it really worth it? Well, today we're going to find out because I took the $160 set that I got off of Amazon that I've been using for the last 2 years, both drifting and regular driving, and we're going to compare it to this $1,300 set of coilovers from BC Racing. Now, I'm not sponsored by these guys. I paid for this out of my own money. Thank you, stimulus. But yeah, we're going to take these things, we're going to put them on the car, and we're going to put them both to the test and figure out truly, is a more expensive coilover better than a cheap one? Well, let's find out. So one major design flaw of the cheap coilovers is that if you look through here, you can see that there's no adjustment for the height that doesn't compress the spring. Whereas on this piece here, it does. So you have a separate adjustment for height than you do for the compression of the spring, which means you can maintain a better ride quality than this piece of junk. So the next thing I want to talk about are the struts. Now, not all coilover kits come with struts. Sometimes there'll be coilovers in the rear, but on a BMW, it's a strut and coil situation. But listen. Yeah, okay, so it's not in the best of shape. This thing's been through quite a bit of abuse for over 2 years. It's been drifted, it's been driven. It doesn't have a lot of miles on it. Mileage-wise, it may have like maybe 10,000 miles, but those 10,000 miles were extremely rough. So now for the expensive one. It's a lot better for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's fully adjustable, so we can adjust the total height of this, which will change the ride height. It's also adjustable in dampening. So that means is that we can adjust basically how well this thing is going to be, whether it's going to be stiff, if it's going to be hard. There's like 30 different levels of adjustment on this thing. So not only can we adjust height, we can adjust dampening and overall dial in our ride for the way that we want it to be, whether we're driving on the street or if we're going to the track. So essentially we got this thing set up to where we get to the track, we harden this thing right up, go launch it out there, go have some fun, and then when we want to go back on the street, just uncrank it, soften it up, and have a nice ride on the street. That's pretty cool if you ask me. So other than just the strut, you also get a coil and a, basically this is the height adjustment that comes on the cheap version. Now this one is, I mean, it's not very good. And literally the height that you get, max height you could get is like up here. But even with this thing completely lowered all the way, you're still sitting kind of like this. I mean, it's a pretty tall suspension setup in the rear. You have a pretty decent rake. And really the only way you could get rid of that is if you tried removing this. And then you're gonna have a not so safe ride because you don't have this to help secure it onto the vehicle. So that's not always great. The height on this is not the best for, especially if you're trying to lower it, but it does work. So that is the thing. I mean, for 160 bucks, you can get down the road. So I mean, that's something. So now I want to show you the BC version. You can see that the BC version is literally about, I would say about maybe a half an inch, maybe a full inch shorter. And it's not even all the way down. We could actually get a whole nother like 3/4 of an inch of adjustment to lower it if we really wanted to. So the BC is gonna get us much lower. And if we really wanted to, we could remove this coil thing here, the little lock rings, and put in this rubber gasket that makes it even lower. So you can get really low with the BC, whereas you're really limited with this. I mean, you can just see by the size of these springs, it's quite the difference. Okay, so before this video gets too far along, instead of asking you to subscribe for some stupid reason, I'm gonna compete for your subscription. This is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna flip a coin. This is a normal coin. There's tails and there's heads. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip this coin, see what we get, and if you lose, you have to subscribe. And tails it is. So if you picked heads, guess you gotta subscribe. Thanks. So the real question is this coilover any better than the other one in terms of ride quality? Well, let's talk to past me and find out. Hey, so it's me from the past, and we're gonna go ahead and drive this thing after about a year's worth of use. This is street driven as well as drifted at the track, so let me show you what it does. So I just want to demonstrate just how bad these things are. I mean, I'm literally rubbing right now, but here's just a little bump right here. Ah, Oh yeah, that felt great. Yeah, I'd love to keep doing that. Oh yeah, that felt great. Now, one thing to consider about these coilovers is that they have been drifted quite hard. Let me show you a quick sample. Alright, here we go. Fighting the wheel a bit, but we're getting there. There we go, baby. It's so not good. Ooh, every little bump. Now, another thing to consider about these coilovers is I have them maxed out as hard as I can just to try to get the lift. One of the biggest problems with these coilovers are you can't quite get the lift that you need. But you have to remember, when I bought these coilovers, I just needed something to get me down the road. I wasn't too concerned with how well it rode. I just wanted to be able to drift and drive. And these things have been able to do that so far. Far be it, you know, very well, but they do it. Do. I just said do. Yes, they do it. And if you're wondering why I'm profusely sweating, it's because I have the AC turned off. The AC actually works in this car, but you wouldn't be able to hear me if I did. I mean, here, see if this makes a difference to the sound. Oh, yes. That's quality right there. So yes, I'm sweating just for y'all. I hope you enjoy that. I hope it makes a difference. Otherwise, I'm just hot for no reason. But yeah, overall, I would say that these things are not terrible. Ah, God, that rubbing is just something else. Anyway, Back to the Future me. I just said Back to the Future. It's a good movie if you haven't seen it. So yeah, I would say that these things are definitely usable. Are they comfortable? No, not really. But you can still drift in them. You can have fun with them for about, a year. And then they're just going to blow out and break down. The other thing is, there's no dampening adjustment. So that's kind of a big deal. You can't really adjust that. And it doesn't come with this top here. See how this thing had this top? I had to buy that separately so that way I could adjust for the camber. Normally, you wouldn't be able to do that at all. And you just use your stock shock tops. But, yeah, so it's not the greatest. It's obviously the welds on this thing are not the best. Build quality's not there, but ultimately, if you need to get down the road, I mean, this will do it for you. So a coilover like this, which is obviously made a lot better because you're paying for it, you have 30-way adjustable knobs as well as camber adjustment, which means that this thing's set up so when you put it in the car, you can set this thing up the way you want it. You can set up the ride height. You're not worried about compressing these springs, so you still get a good solid ride. Now, I haven't actually gotten to drive with this yet, so that's what we're going to do next. So I guess it's time to put these suckers in. So let's do it.
Waste another day, eyes on my display. You say we need a change, and I feel that you mean it. You mean it. But you're so right, we're losing track of time, buying things online, and it's not like we need them. We don't need them. So can we just slow down? The only thing I'll do is lay here next to you. We need to slow down. Embrace the love we found for you and our safe and sound. And we just slow down. For you and our safe So can we just slow down? The only thing I'll do is lay here next to you. We need to slow down. Embrace the love we found. For you and I were safe and sound. Can we just slow down? And we just waste another day. I don't wanna stay. You say you need a change, feel that you need it. It's just so right. We're losing track of time, buying things online. It's not like we need them. Safe and sound.
So the one thing I can say is that the more expensive brand is definitely a lot easier to install than the cheap one. But it's on there. All we got to do now is take it for a test drive. So let's do it. All right, let's go test that same bump we did earlier with the old school coilovers. See how these ones handle it.
So one thing you'll notice about the BC coilovers is that they're a variable valve rate, so at slower speeds it's going to move a lot more and have a lot more travel, which equates to a smoother ride. That's why you see the Amazon one not moving hardly at all.
Okay, a little bit of rubbage, but you know, I can adjust the height and fix that. But not too bad. And I have to say, it feels pretty smooth from what I can tell. But again, this is going to be hard to test because this is just road driving. But I can tell you, as far as like hitting bumps and stuff like this, I didn't even feel that. I mean, that was pretty solid right there. Let's see how it feels going around a corner. Feels pretty good in the corner. I'm still rubbing a little bit, but I think it's just because I need to raise them up a little bit. It definitely feels smoother than the Maxpeeding Rods, that's for sure. Let's take this thing off road a little bit. I mean, not too terrible. I mean, considering I'm basically off-roading in a BMW right now, it's not really all that bad. You would think it would be a lot worse, but I actually feel okay doing this. Okay, this is a pretty steep incline here. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna rub, but that's okay. Yeah, a little bit of rubbage. Too much weight on the rear right here, so I definitely got to race the rear. The rear is definitely sagging a little bit, but you know, the thing is, I would love to put these things to the test at actual drifting, but I haven't been to a drift event in a very long time, thanks to a certain thing that happened that I'm sure you're all very aware of, and it's been kind of preventing us from being able to do it. Now they've opened up down here, so hopefully pretty soon I'll be able to actually go to one of those things. But until then, I mean, the only real way that I can compare the two is just by how it feels on the road. And I can tell you that the BCs feel really good going down the road. I can say, too, it feels very responsive. Like, when I turn the wheel, it just wants to go. It feels like very, like, it just kind of dives in. All right, same corner. Can I make it without rubbing? Oh, yeah, baby. I can do the whole turn without rubbing this time. That's kind of nice. Oh, yeah. Actually, not too bad. I will say it's a little bouncy. That could just be that the dampening I have is set a little bit too soft. But that could be a good thing, too, for driving on the street. I mean, it'd be a little bit more comfortable on the highway. Definitely feels more like riding a boat. But if I harden them up a bit, it'll feel a little bit more like a track car. But overall, I mean, I'm happy with these coilovers. They feel great. But the real question is it really better than a $150 set? I think only time will tell, because just for the pure ability to drive, it's really great. But the question is, will these things last longer than a year and a half? I'm going to go with yes, most likely. but I won't know until that time comes. Alright, well, let's go check and see. Alright, so here's the no bullshit answer. Essentially, if you just need to get your car down the road, the Amazon specials, Maxpeeding Rods, $160 coilovers, they'll get you down the road. But it's going to be a rough ride. But if you just need to get the car back down the road, they work. I used them for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, and they lasted. It was only about 10,000 miles, but it was 10,000 miles of rough driving. But if you want something that you think is going to last a little bit longer, then maybe upgrade. Doesn't necessarily have to be the most expensive coilover, but at least a name brand. Now, BC's, the ones I got were $1,300. Now, is there really a significant difference between them? I would say yes and no. Yes, because you get a lot of adjustability. You can raise the height of the vehicle, lower the height. You can adjust your dampening, so you can control basically how well this thing's gonna run. And when you order them, you can even pick custom springs, so you can basically pick a spring rate that works for what you want to do. And it doesn't cost any different. As far as I know, it may be different. You may have to look that up. But anyway, my point is that if you're buying them for a specific purpose and you want to race and drift and do all those things, and you're going to be using this thing more as a race car than, say, a street car, then it's probably worth the upgrade because it's going to see more abuse and it's going to be a lot harder on the parts. And most likely, they're going to last a lot longer with a better part. So now, one thing that's positive about the BC Racing stuff is that you can buy individual parts, so if you ever need to redo it or rebuild it, you can rebuild it. They're fully rebuildable, so even if it does go out, you can fix it. You can't do that with the cheaper ones. So really, when you're buying this, you're setting yourself up for more long-term investment, not so much short-term. But again, like I said, if you just need something that gets you down the road, I mean, Maxpeeding Rods will do the trick. It's just going to be a little bit rough. That's really all you got to understand when you're doing this. But, I mean, it just comes down to you as the buyer and what you want to spend and what you can afford to spend. So if I had to do it all over again, if I was going to spend $1,300 on a set of coilovers versus, say, maybe like $800, there you're going to get a little murky because they're going to be very similar in quality and the differences is going to be very, very small. Now, if you go even higher end, I mean, you're just getting kind of ridiculous for a street car. So if it is a street car, I wouldn't even bother going anywhere past $1,300 on a set of coilovers. It's kind of a moot point. You can if you want to, but I'm pretty sure most people aren't going to be spending more than that on their car anyway. You'd rather put that money into other parts for the car that you can that are going to be just as valuable. Okay, so I guess we'll do a pros and a cons list, but I guess for the cheap coilovers, the pros would be that they are cheap. They get you down the road and they're cheap. So there you go. Cons would be that they don't last very long. The ride is incredibly rough. They're just kind of all around kind of shit, but you know what? They at least get you down the road. So there you go, cheap coilovers. Now for the good coilovers, the expensive ones, you're looking at, well, I guess the con would be that it's expensive. They're your biggest cons. But then the pros, you have, it's height adjustable, so you can adjust your height, high or low, whatever you want. You can adjust your dampening, so you could basically adjust how the ride is. You could change out your springs for different spring rates. So again, that falls under adjustability. They're rebuildable, which is huge. In case if it ever breaks down, you can fix them. You're not just SOL. Yeah, build quality. That would be the other one. They're just built really, really well. I can tell just from looking at them, from handling them, installing them, they're made very well and made to last. So the question is, how long will they last? I don't know, but we're going to definitely put them to the test, and if they break down earlier, you'll find out about it in a later video. So yeah, I think that's everything. I don't know, I may have forgot something. I'm sure if I did that, somebody will let me know down in the comments. They always tend to find something wrong with my videos, but that's okay. That's how we learn. That's how we get better. But anyway, I hope that you're having a great day, and if not, I hope that it gets better. And I'll be sure to see you in the next one. But before I go, just remember, keep it nice and easy, okay? See you later.